Good job,
Yeah,
Diane. So Karen, can you please don't forget what that question was? I promise, because I want you to come back to that. However, I want to get right to this because it's exactly what Diane's talking about. This is for the purpose of the recording and for everybody on Zoom and for all of you, right? So here's what Diane just talked about. There's this line that is the life cycle of a real estate transaction. Now, what we know is about 7 to 10 days before somebody puts their home on the market, they get serious, right? In other words, Diane spoke with this homeowner, and right now she doesn't want to list her home. She's lived there for 47 years. She is never going to list her home. We call that what?
Opportunity.
Noise. It's just noise. I'm never going to list my home, blah, 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 right? It's just noise. Trust me, it's not true. It's just a natural defense mechanism that sellers put up in order to stop you from trying to sell them. Nobody wants to be sold, right? Why would she call Diane if she's never interested in selling her home? Okay, now, everything to the right of this line, in other words, everything that happens to the right of when that seller says, okay, I'm thinking about putting my home on the market. Now she's serious. Now, everything to the right of that line is called transaction management. That's what we do to get somebody under contract. Now, everything to the left of this line is lead generation. Is the golden letter lead generation? Yeah, it is, right? Now, this giant space in the middle is the key to success. This is where most people fail. And this space is follow-up. Now, in order to follow up, first of all, I have to have a system in place, right, Zara? Because if I have 250 people that are in this group, because I'm adding one new person every day to my pipeline, if I've got 250 people that are in that group, can I systematically follow up with 250 people, Maria, without a system? No, I can't. We don't have all of our Marias in the room this morning, but I just realized this morning we have like 5 Marias and all of you, all right? Yeah, and I'm a Maria 1, Maria 2, Maria 3. So I'm pretty safe if I don't know a name in the room, I'm just gonna say Maria. Chances are there's one. All right, now I've got 250 people in this center space right here. So I have to have a system in place in order to follow up. So in Command, what's the system, what's it called that we use to follow up with this particular seller? In other words, Diane, are you adding this person to Command? Say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course you are. Then what's the next step? You're going to launch a
8x8.
36 touch.
30.
You're both right. You're both right, by the way. Clarissa, you're going to start with an 8x8 in order to create top of mind so that when they think of you, they think of real estate. And you're going to follow, you want to be the Diet Coke of real estate, right? If you ask me to name a soda, Diet Coke.
Mm-hmm.
What's the second soda I think about? I don't know. There are none. And you want to be the Diet Coke of real estate. Now, later on, when I'm asking for ahas, yes, you could share, be the Diet Coke of real estate. That would be a good aha, by the way. Now, you're going to follow that up with a 36 touch smart plan. And Diane's going to call and have a conversation. It's a care call. It's not a sales call. She's following the Ford model of communication. In other words, if Diane is that individual, then I'm following up with her. Hey, Diane, John Dietz, following up as promised. First of all, thank you for taking my call. How's your family? Are you still working at blank, blank, blank? We're going to have a care call following the Ford model of communication. It's not a sales call. And all I'm doing call number 2, 3, 4, and eventually somewhere down the line, maybe it's a year later, maybe it's 2 years later, maybe it's 3 months. However, on one of these calls, that individual is going to say, wow, I'm glad you called, thinking about putting the house on the market. Or Diane's going to get a call and it's going to be, hey, I'm thinking about putting the house on the market. When can we meet? She's created emotional proximity. Now, in order to be successful in real estate, you have to master lead generation, you have to master lead follow-up, and you have to master the transaction management part of the sale, and you have to do all 3 at the same time. And in order to do that, you need systems and tools. Now, the systems and tools that you can use can either be a dozen different bolt-on technology systems that you purchase that exist all over the place, or it could be a platform like Command, and that's one system in order to master lead generation, lead follow-up, and transaction management in order to get that individual under contract and closed. Yes or yes?
Yes.
Right? Now, here's the other thing that I want to ask you. So, the same individual, Diane, bother me if it's not perfect, sorry. That's a mess. Is that bothering anybody else? Because it's making me crazy. Come on. That's bothering you, right? She's gonna. All right. I close on a house today and the commission is $10,000. So I'm a lead in Diane's database and the value of that lead is $10,000. Yes? The very next day, how much is that lead worth? 0. It's the day after I closed, right? Now, in the US, approximately every 7 to 10 years, we move. So 7 to 10 years from this day, the value of that lead is $10,000. And here's where most real estate agents mess up. Diane got a call from somebody she mailed a golden letter right there. Correct? What if the call was, hey, I got your letter and I'm thinking about putting my house on the market maybe in 30 days from now. Can we get together and talk about what you could do to sell my home? Is that a great lead? Mm-hmm. Say yes. Now, she got a call here and the homeowner said, I'm not going to list my home. I'm never going to list my home. I'm just calling you because I thought I'd waste your time. And is that a good lead? You guys are so smart. You are. What would most people say? If I was teaching this class at Blank Real Estate, down the street from here, Blank Real Estate Company, they don't have the benefit of being in the classes that you're in. And I said, is that a good lead? What would they say? No, it sucks. Where does this lead go? In the trash. Bad lead, great lead. Bad lead, great lead. Here's the truth. And you know the truth. They're both great leads. They're both worth $10,000. Because I don't care if somebody's thinking of selling their home 30 days from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, or 2 years from now. I am looking for opportunity, period, not opportunity right now. There are no bad leads. There's just bad real estate agents who don't follow up. The key, again, is a system in order to follow up, in order to create emotional proximity. Now, does that make sense? Okay. I know, huge bunny trail, but I think it's important, especially now, because we're going to start having a lot of conversations around listings and what we need to do to get our unfair share, because it's time to start focusing on getting your unfair share, because the days of living off your fair share of seller listings are over. Okay, Karen.
Dan, my question was, when she calls you and says, I am never selling, I will never be leaving, what's your very next sentence?
Oh, that's great. I just went into, well, I'm so happy you called me.
So, but then how do you keep her on the phone and the conversation like keeps moving?
Well, I asked her, I said, do you know why I sent you a letter? I asked her.
That's a good question. Do you know why I sent you the letter?
Yeah.
Great question.
And
Write it down. Good question.
And she said to me, well, I got so many letters from realtors and so many phone calls. I go, well, do you know what's going on with the market? Because that's why you're getting all these calls and letters. And then I explained it. And then she was very appreciative at the end of the phone. I was on the phone with her for like a good 10 minutes. And at the end of the phone call, she goes, you know, you're the only one who explained it to me and I'm gonna hold on to your information.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna write her a card today. I'm gonna write her a thank you card, send her my virtual card, and then she's in my farm area. So she, when I go trick or treating, because I'm doing reverse trick or treating this year, and I'm gonna dress up and go to she's gonna get a special.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
the segue is to ask them an open-ended question. So I'm never selling. Well, do you know why I reached out to you? I love that.
Okay.
The answer is always questions. How many questions can you ask someone in any given conversation that's going to keep you in conversation? It's a game. You win when you never run out of questions. You lose when you run out of questions. I lose when I run out of questions. I mean, that should be something you write down as well. And the goal is to never run out of questions. I can keep somebody on the phone forever if I never run out of questions. I can keep the conversation going. And as long as I'm keeping the conversation going, then I have an opportunity to build a relationship. And I also have an opportunity to potentially help them change their mind in order to make a new decision. Eventually, that's the goal here, right? So, Diane, thank you for sharing that. I'm proud of you. Yep. So from page 185 through page 190, Gary talks about the lead generation model of a millionaire real estate agent. And this is recap. We've already talked about this. Now, starting on page 192, Gary goes into the millionaire real estate budget model. And from 192 through page 196, he discusses the budget model. Now, here's what's interesting. On this one page, and it's not even a whole page, and it's page 191, he has a conversation about focusing on listings. And this can kind of get lost in the book if you're not looking for it, right? Or if you're so focused on learning the 4 models of your playbook, right? Because we're all in training to become millionaire real estate agents. That means we're all on a path to earn and then net $1 million as a real estate agent, because I think like, walk like, talk like, and have the checkbook of a millionaire real estate agent. Now there's this one page that just kind of gets hidden in here, and it's on page 191. And we're not going to skip over it. Matter of fact, we're going to do a deep dive into a half a page because it's important. Focus on listings. The millionaire real estate agent understands the importance of listing seller houses. They realize the huge benefits, not average benefits, not small benefits, but huge benefits and advantages of seller listings covered earlier on page 102. So if you weren't on that call that day or just to go back for a refresher, go back to page 102 and look at the benefits of seller listings. And therefore, build their entire, not part of, not most of, their entire lead generation model around generating seller listings. Now, here's a question. If that's true, and the most successful real estate agents in our country, according to our playbook, are building their lead generation model, the entire model, on seller listings, why are so many real estate agents spending $1,000 a month, thousands and thousands of dollars a month, tens of thousands on buyer leads? Why? If you're spending money for pay-per-click, for Zillow leads, for Boomtown, for Tiger leads, or any of the other many different types of lead sources that you can spend money for, what type of leads are you getting? Buyer leads or seller leads? It's buyer leads. Now, why are you doing that when Gary just said they realize the huge benefits and advantages of seller listings, and they build their entire lead generation model around generating seller listings? By focusing on seller listings, they put the two biggest advantages in the business to work for them. Now, it's interesting because on that same page, there's a quote from Joe Rothschild, who's a real estate agent in Katy, Texas, who at the time this book was written was doing $106.9 million a year in closed volume. Here's what he had to say. I have a broad marketing plan, but our yard signs alone generate over 7,000 leads a year. Seller listings turn into yard signs, which turn into leads. Now, if I were paying for those 7,000 leads, the average cost per lead on any of those sites that I mentioned earlier is between $10 and $15 a piece. So 7,000 leads times $10, how much money is that? Is it $70,000? You've got your calculator, also known as your smartphone, sitting right there. Do the math. And if you focus on seller listings, your buyer business will come. Buyers come from seller listings. The best way to generate more buyer leads is take more seller listings. And if you focus on it and do it the right way, you never have to spend a dollar, a dime, nothing on getting buyer leads. Now, here's what's interesting, because we're starting to see the market move just a little bit. In other words, there are fewer listings being taken right now than there were in June. Matter of fact, as a market, we're on track for listings taken and closed units to be down anywhere between 10 and 20%. And the reason it's such a broad number right now is because the month's not over and we don't know what the last week of July is going to look like yet. But right now we're on track for those numbers to be down by 10 to 20%. Now, if that's true, in other words, let's just say there's 10% fewer listings taken, and there's still the same number of real estate agents. Matter of fact, there's more. And I've been living on my fair share. In other words, it's the pizza conversation. There's 20 of us. We order 4 large pizzas with 40 slices. We each get 2, right? Yeah. And if they deliver only 2 pizzas and there's only 20 slices, and I asked you yesterday, how many slices do each of us get? And you said 2. Well, that makes sense because that's the fair share. And it's the wrong answer because I'm still getting 4, which means the rest of you are fighting over everything that's left because I'm getting my unfair share. Now, is that nice? I don't know. I don't care. I care more about taking care of Colin and Lacey and making sure they have everything they need in order to live an amazing life than I do everybody getting their fair share. Go get your unfair share. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions, but before I do that, I just want to go to the flip chart for a moment and talk about the market. So if this is an accurate description of the market, it's pretty close, by the way. And this is 2002. And the market peaked in 2006. And then it did this, maybe not that fast. Maybe it wasn't a cliff jumping off the cliff, but it dropped. And somewhere around 2012, we hit the bottom and then we started to come back. And depending on where you live, somewhere around 2016, we got back to even with where we were in 2006. Now, here's the question. It's 2021. What happens next? Are we in a market where 2021 looks something like it did in 2006? In other words, are we headed for a shift? Are we headed for a market where the values are going to go down? Or is that more like what's going to happen? Is it just going to even out, flatten, and the values aren't going to keep going up, but they're also not going to come down? Or is the market going to shift slightly? The values are going to drop a little bit, and then we're going to start to see another increase. And the answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows the answers to those questions. And everybody thinks they do. A lot of real estate agents think they do. And can you time the market? That's a simple question, yes or no? Okay. Again, you guys are smarter than most people. And would the average person tell you that they can time the market? Yes, they would. Now I want you to tell me when I get to the top. You ready? And I want you to say there. And I'm going to stop. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Cool. How'd you do? Want to try again?
Yeah.
Want to try again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a guessing game.
If you blink, you miss it.
Right?
Okay, one more time.
Yeah, stop it. Now, that's reality. That's 100% reality. By the way, this, my blue marker go. This is when the media shows up and says, oh, the market shifted yesterday.
Yeah.
That's where your buyers, sellers, your friends, your family members, your neighbors, the world is getting their information from the media because we're not talking to them. If you were having more conversations with them, they would be making better decisions. In other words, are there homeowners in our market that should be selling right now that aren't? Yes or no question? Yeah, there are. So here's the questions that I have for you. What's the average number of years between moves in the United States? You know the answer. I just shared it 10 minutes at 7 to 10. There you go. You got that right. So right now that immediately tells me I'm going to look at everybody in my market who purchased their home on or before 2014. Target. Everybody who purchases their home on or before 2014, they're part of my target group. In other words, I'm going to start calling those people. I'm going to market to those people. If I'm strategic in how I do business, in other words, if I'm playing chess and not checkers, I'm going to be strategic in how I build my real estate business. I'm going to be strategic in how I take listings. I'm going to focus on that group that's been in their home on or before 2014. Next question. Why do people sell? Just start listing reasons. Jobs, relocation,
Life change.
life changes, downsizing, divorces. Divorces are awesome. Divorces equal 3 sales. Oh, that's recorded and live on Facebook. I love it. By the way, somebody calls you and says, I need to sell my home because we're getting divorced. Don't respond. That's awesome. Wrong response, not in the script book. But they are awesome because it's 3 sales, right? Yeah, we're going to sell their house and then he's going here and she's going there. Cool. They're both buying houses. I'm excited. All right. Really bad. Give me more reasons. Death. Yeah, somebody dies. They need to sell the house. Births. They have a baby. They need a bigger house. Change in finances.
Afford it, yeah.
We get married. Yes. That's awesome too. Because they're going to get divorced one day and then you Now, you guys did a really good job, right? And nobody said anything about because money, because it's time to cash in on that investment. Nobody said that.
I said,
Yeah.
Lucas said that. Lucas said that. All right, before you celebrate, hold on. I know it's 9:34. We're not going to finish until I'm done. I know before you celebrate, hold on, because that might be a good answer, might not be. What is the downside of trying to time the market?
you can miss it.
You could miss it. What else?
Might be too early.
Might be too late. What's the downsides? Think, guys, because you being able to, these are the things. If your neighbor sold their home to the bank, in other words, if their property was foreclosed on,
Value.
does that, the value of your home going up or is it going down?
Down.
Right. If I'm trying to time the market, if I'm back in 2006 and I'm timing the market and 2008, I'm like, okay, it's time to sell. Was the market different in 2008 than it was in 2006? Say yes. Is there could there be a lot more competition when you decide to sell your home? Say yes. Yes. So one of the downsides to trying to time the market is it's going to be much harder to sell your home when you decide to put it on the market versus now. In other words, could there be more competition than there is today? The answer is yes. Could interest rates go up between now and when you decide to put your home on the market? What's the downside of the interest rates going up? Is your home more affordable or less affordable? All right. Is it possible that there's fewer people moving into the area? I mean, we've got this constant stream of buyers that are coming into South Florida from the Northeast and from California because everybody's leaving, right? And is that going to last forever? No, it can't. I can keep going, but we're not going to because of time. I want you guys to do some work on this. What is the downside of trying to time the market? Who benefits most by selling in an appreciating market? In other words, values are going up versus a depreciating market. Let me ask you, because you're going to have to get good at this conversation. Who benefits from selling and moving in a depreciating market? In other words, it's actually a good idea. Values are dropping. Cool. And you should sell. Matter of fact, you're going to make money on the move, even though values are moving, even though values are dropping. Anybody who is moving up in value benefits from selling in a depreciating market. So for example, if I'm selling my home and the values have dropped by 10%, and I'm selling a $400,000 home that was worth $400,000 at the peak,
but the values have dropped 10%. It's now worth 360. Yes or yes? Yeah. And I'm buying an $800,000 home. It's also dropped by 10%, which means it's now selling for $720,000. So I lost $40,000 on the sale. I made $80,000 on the buy. It's a net difference of $40,000 to my favor. Yes? So even in a market where values are dropping, it's a really good financial decision for a certain group of people to sell.
Yeah.
Well, that's also true in the market where values are going up. And if I'm downsizing and I sell my home today, the markets are rising and the market shifts and I don't time it right, I come out ahead if I'm downsizing. There's always somebody who should buy and somebody who should sell. All right. Here's the next question. Lucas, this is for you. Is your home an investment? If the answer is why, or no, or if the answer is yes, why? Or if the answer is no, why? Is your home an investment? It's a simple question. Who wants to try that?
It's not.
Okay, Clarice, I'm coming to you in just a second. Michael, why not?
Because you need to live somewhere
Got to live somewhere.
and you're
Yeah.
gonna pay to live somewhere anyways.
Yeah. So I would say your home is shelter
Right.
and therefore it's not an investment. Now, if you're an investor and you're buying properties for the purpose of flipping or holding and renting, then it is an investment. But the home you live in is not an investment.
No, it's a liability.
It's a liability. And again, you're going to have to get good at this conversation because you're going to have people who are upset because they're selling their home for less than they thought they were going to sell it for. Therefore, they're not making the money they thought they were going to make, right? And they've lived in their home for 3 years. Cool. And that home, if they were renting, would cost them $3,000 a month to rent or $36,000 a year to live in that home, right? That means in the last 3 years, they would have paid $108,000 to live in that home, correct? Right. And because they own it, they didn't pay $108,000 in rent, did they? Now, isn't that $108,000 a gain in selling the house? To me, it is. It's perspective. Perspective is the only thing that can change the outcome without changing any of the facts. Clarissa, what were you going to say?
Okay, so I guess it's perspective, because I think of it based on when I came in. It depends on the market of the day. Based on when I came in and based on when I should decide to sell, I could have made, because of the equity built in the home, I could have made a lot of money on that property.
Mhm.
And it's all in what you do with the equity once you've made that equity.
Okay, that's a great answer. And when I ask you if is your home an investment, it doesn't mean you're not going to make money when you sell your home, because most of the time you will, right? However, wrong PowerPoint behind me. If you looked at that natural trend line, market values on average go up a certain percentage every year over time. You can go back to early 1980s when they first started tracking this, which means most of the time you are going to make money, but there's no guarantee that you're going to make money on your personal home. Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad would tell you that the home you live in is not an investment, it's a liability. It doesn't mean you're not going to make money, because you can, and most of the time you will, but there's no guarantee that you're going to.
Sure.
Nobody ever promised. Diane.
So I think that I know why no is the answer. But I know why yes could be the answer. Because if you do own a home and then you make it a legacy property for your children or your grandchildren. And in addition to that, if you choose not to sell that home and make it a rental property or
Mhm.
Airbnb,
Mhm.
it becomes an investment.
Well, sure. If I turn that property into a rental property, it is now an investment.
Yeah.
100%, because I've moved into another home that's now shelter.
Right.
So that home is not an investment. The one I used to live in is now an investment. 100%. You're absolutely right. Cool. All right. Think of this like real estate agents, because some of you, I don't mean you, so don't take it personal. Some of you are think I just know because I've been doing this a while. Some of you are thinking of this from a homeowner's perspective. Don't do that. Think of this from a realtor's perspective, because you're the local market expert. You are the local economist of choice. It's your job to have these types of conversations with everybody who's in your database, because it's your job in order to help them make great decisions, right? Yeah. And I appreciate what you said, because you're absolutely right. If I decide to turn it into a rental or an Airbnb, then it is now an investment. Or if I will it to my children, then I'm creating generational wealth. 100%. You're both right. Okay. Next question. Should I consider moving twice in order to get out at the top of the market? Right? Yeah. What does that look like? You're going to have that conversation at a high level with people in your database, because one of the number one objections you're going to get today is, I want to sell my home, but where am I going? I'm not going to move twice. 100%, Lucas. I guarantee that's going to be the conversation. And if you just say, okay, not only does that not get you where you want to go, get your unfair share, right? This is an unfair share conversation. You're also not doing them any favors. If I go back to that market, it's not there anymore, but if I go back to that market in 2006, and I had people telling me, and I did, I don't want to sell my home because there's nothing for sale. I can't buy anything. Everything's too expensive, and I don't want to move twice. And I didn't have the tools that I needed. In other words, I hadn't mastered these conversations at a level where I can help that person make a new decision based on new information. And 2 years later, they're still in that house and they're like, oh my gosh, I wish 2 years ago when we had this conversation, I should have put my home on the market and sold it. Do you think there's some people in 2008, 9, and 10 that if they had the opportunity to go back in time, would have sold their home in 2006? Say yes. Yes. Now, Lucas, if you knew that the pain of moving twice different question. Lucas, is the pain of moving twice worth the pleasure of getting out at the top of the market? If you knew you were going to sell your home at the very top and you had to move twice, in other words, you had to rent for a year and then buy, and that's the price you had to pay in order to get out at the top of the market, would the pain of moving twice be worth the pleasure of getting out at the top of the market? Is it possible that this market is similar to the market we were in 2006? Is it possible? If it is, what would you do? Okay. All right.
So question, John. So you just asked that question, but going back to the other question, the investment piece, if you get out at the top of the market, then you made money.
Yep.
Which means it's an investment.
Clarissa just wants to win that argument. Clarissa, I'll make a deal with you. If you can get a hold of Robert Kiyosaki and get him to change his mind on this, then I'll change my mind. Maria.
So is that what you would say to someone who's like, I don't wanna sell, and even if I sell, everything's too expensive, so I'm kind of like lose there?
Yeah, so I'm going to find a way to have that conversation in questions, right? In other words, Maria, I completely understand that. And if the market were to shift in a year from now, there's more competition and you find yourself in a position where you have to sell, right? Is it going to be easier to sell your home with more competition or less competition? Going to be easier with less competition like there is now. And if interest rates go up between now and a year from now, is your home more affordable or less affordable? I mean, it's less affordable, right? Yeah. And if your neighbor's home is foreclosed on, is the value of your home going up or is it going down? Yeah. So moving twice is kind of a pain, right? And you don't want to sell your home because you don't want to have to move twice. Yeah. However, is the pain of moving twice worth the pleasure of getting out at the top of the market? So that's a conversation, right? Yeah, so that's exactly what that conversation would sound like. I'm going to get really, really good at that conversation because I'm going to have that conversation a lot in the next 6 months. And that's why I'm going to get my unfair share of listings. And people are going to say, what are you doing to get listings? Because I can't get listings. Okay. Next question.
John,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Yep.
I've actually got like 6, but I'm just going to hold it to 2. So let's talk about that. This last one here, right? Like, is the pleasure of, maximizing today's market, more important than moving twice? Well, the second question I would have then is, they need to live somewhere else, right? And granted, let's say they can make a $50,000 profit on selling today.
Yep.
But yet rent's going to cost them $36,000
Yep.
annually. And they won't buy their new home for, let's say, 2 or 3 years. Their profit gets soaked up because they still have to pay for rent. So I've been having this conversation, and this is kind of where we're going. Like, at what point does that conversation make sense?
Pen and paper, and it's a math equation, right? So the cost of keeping your home is not just how much money you're paying for your mortgage. You've got taxes, you've got insurance, you have homeowners association fees, you have upkeep. Some of that upkeep will be your responsibility if you were to rent, and some of it is the homeowner's responsibility. So all of those things added together is the cost of continuing to own your home, versus if you rent, your cost is rent. You're not paying taxes, you're not paying for the same upkeep, you're not paying the same insurance. Yeah, you can have renter's insurance, I get it, and it's a lot less money. So in most cases, Michael, the math is going to be more favorable to renting for a year, maybe 2 years, and waiting for the market to even out, and then buy when there's a lot more inventory, because now I have the advantage as a buyer because there's more inventory, versus waiting to sell my home in that same market. I no longer have the advantage, the buyer does. I want to sell when I have the advantage as a seller. I want to buy when I have the advantage as a buyer. Now, the next question, Michael, I hope that helped. And remember your other questions because we'll come back to them. So we're in a market that could be doing one of 3 things, right? It could be continuing to go up, that's the red line, or it could be flattening out, that's the black line, or it could actually be looking at a downturn, and that's the blue line. Now, 6 months ago, you could price a home 3% above the market. In other words, it's a $600,000 home. That's what the comparables say the market is what the home is worth, $600,000. And you could price that home at $620,000, which is just barely more than 3% above market value. And no big deal. It's going to sell. Matter of fact, it's going to sell fast and it's going to sell with multiple offers. Yes? Now, if I use that same strategy today and I price 3% above the market or $620,000, and the market says that home is worth $600,000 today, if I'm in this market where values are flattening out, we started out above the market, yes? And are we above market value? Say yes, right? If we're in the blue market where the values are actually dropping, we started out above the market value and we're more above the market value every day. In other words, over time, we become even more overpriced. Now, it's 6 months later. Homes are sitting longer. There's more homes on the market. And we started out $20,000 above the market because that was the strategy 6 months ago. Therefore, it should work today. Well, the problem is if you don't understand how this works, is that home going to sell?
No.
Say no. If we're in this market or this market, no, it's not going to sell. The only way that home sells is if we're still in this market. That's another timing the market conversation. And where 6 months ago, pricing wasn't that important, it's critically important today. All right, I have one more question. I'm gonna let you go. Actually, that was it. All right, I know I'm way over time. Holy cow. I hope that it's okay. I believe that we really needed to have this conversation today. And I am determined with passion that if there is a shift in the market, this group, and when I say this group, I mean everybody who's a part of this market center, everybody who's in this room, everybody who is on Zoom, we are not going to participate. Go back to the Great Depression, right? For those of you younger than 40, you'll probably have to Google it. And there were people in the Great Depression who were making money. There were people in the Great Depression who were making a lot of money. I mean, there were literally people jumping out of buildings. It was that bad, right? I mean, there were people losing everything. And did you know that there is no time in the history of our country in which more generational wealth was created than the Great Depression? Now, they just chose not to participate, right? There could be a recession going on. I'm not participating. The rest of you can if you want, but I'm not going to. The real estate market can shift, and we could have real estate agents getting out of the business because they can't find a way to get listings. Cool. I'm not going to participate. This office is not going to participate. You're not going to participate. We're going to continue to crush it regardless of what the market does. Advantage us. Matter of fact, if you know what you're doing, you want this to happen because this is when you gain market share. Think of it like, it's not a football analogy, just be grateful. It's a NASCAR example. Now, Diane said that's worse. I love it. Drive fast, turn left. Seller's market. It's caution. It's yellow. The light is yellow, and all the cars are driving the same speed, and they're following the pace car, and they're just doing laps. Everything is normal. No chaos. Seller's market. The light turns green and it is total chaos. And you've got cars doing this and bumping into one another, going over 200 miles an hour, going into that turn at 150 miles an hour, which is normal for anybody driving on 95. But buyer's market, complete chaos. People are fighting to get to the front. And is that what's happening? I don't know. Could it? Yeah. It's going to be somewhere in the middle. My guess, by the way.
Mhm.
Here's what I know. Fact. There are fewer homes being sold and fewer properties being listed than there were 6 months ago, than there were 30 days ago. It's time to get your unfair share. Okay. All right. Give me a couple of ahas. We're going to jump. Diane.
Well, it's thinking what I said yesterday, it's changing your business and how you're gonna run your business, because it's understanding the market so you know how to run your business. I already have a post ready in my mind with these pieces of paper.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. If you're not paying attention, then you're winging it. If you don't know your numbers, you're winging it. And winging it doesn't work. It may for a while when the market's hot because business just comes.
Yeah.
And Gary Keller said in Chef that we succeed in good markets because of what we're doing well. We also succeed in spite of what we're not doing very well. Clarissa.
So today on the James Shaw call, it shared page 14. Not everyone will, but anyone can.
Yeah, I agree. Not everyone will, and anyone can. So Rashad, as far as the prices going up or going down, it depends. And it depends on supply and demand. As long as there is more demand than there is supply, then prices will continue to go up. However, when you start to see fewer homes being sold and you start to see homes sitting on the market longer, in other words, average days on market, right? Then that's a sign that you're headed to a market where values are still going to start coming down. Prices go up when there's so much competition for a property that buyers pay more than the asking price. That's what causes prices to go up. And as soon as homes start sitting and not selling, and then the sellers drop their price in order to sell, prices are coming down. The moment a homeowner sells their home for less money than the last property that sold down the street, you've created a new ceiling, meaning the next house is going to sell for less. When the markets are going up, when a homeowner sells their home for more money than the home down the street, that's a new floor, which means the next home is going to sell for more. Diane.
I had another thought too,
Yep.
that because of this market, nobody really cared even what had to be done to the house. And I think it's super important to understand the value of upgrades and what needs to be done to a house in a market that shifts, because it is going to be super important to a buyer. It becomes like, oh, well, this house has the upgraded kitchen, this one doesn't. And right now in this market, somebody who's just like, I just got to get, there's so many offers, I'm losing every offer I'm putting in. And now when there's going to be so many homes available, it's like, we have to really understand what these houses have in it. And it's no longer, it's more about the property, because before right now, or maybe still, the homes go on the market and they sell like that, and there's not even any time to really kick the tires.
Yes, good point. Good job. And what Diane's talking about is there's different types of seller equity, and seller equity is also, I can sell my home without doing a lot of upgrades, without doing a lot of updates, because there's so much competition for property right now. It doesn't matter if I have a brand new roof. Whereas 6 months from now, I might have to put a brand new roof on my house in order to sell it, right? Good
Or
point.
deduct the price.
Or drop the price. Cool.
And all these contingencies.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah, agree. All right, one more aha. Karen.
I lose when I run out of questions.
All right, two. Michael, Karen's first, and then you.
So I really enjoyed the part where we talked about presenting them with the math, because I think it it takes a little bit of the emotional connection away and shows them like the dollar value, like on paper.
Yep.
Because people love money and they'll let their emotions go to the side if you can show that this is a win for them.
Yeah. So,
Even with the double move.
yeah. So logic makes us think, emotion makes us act. Yeah. And I agree, Karen, especially to a high C. They just dig this stuff. Yeah. Michael.
I lose when I run out of questions.
Yes. Right? Yeah. I lose when I run out of questions. Have a conversation, play a game, and have a conversation with someone where each of you have to ask a question. You have to have a conversation only asking questions. Trust me, it sounds easier than it is. It's hard. All right. All right, everybody. It is 10:02. Wow. Didn't plan on this being an hour long today. I hope it's okay that it was. I hope you got great value from this. It will be on YouTube later. Please share it with your friends before you get up and leave the room. Time to get to work. What is work? Work is 20 conversations, not 19, not 18, not 17 conversations. If I had 17 conversations and I stopped because it's close enough. Hey, by the way, when the market's shifting, screw that 20 conversations. It's 40 conversations, not 39, not 38, not 37 conversations, because if you want to get your unfair share, double down on lead generation. If I have 37 conversations, didn't have the 38th conversation, I didn't get the $1 million listing because I didn't have the conversation. Make care calls, not sale calls. Find somebody today who's thinking of selling their home, whether it's 30 days from now, 6 months from now, or a year from now, doesn't matter. You're looking for opportunity, not opportunity right now. Meet with someone every day who's thinking of selling their home, so that in a year from now, you will have 250 people that you are following up with. And because you follow up forever, because you reject rejection, no is not a word that lives in your vocabulary. You're creating emotional proximity. People will never change their mind, but they will make a new decision based on new information. So when they make a new decision based on new information, Lucas, that new decision will be to hire you. A condensed version today, guys. All right, I am going to say goodbye because it's after 10 o'clock. I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Make it a great day.